Gurdjieff, a great enigma. The personality and life of Gurdjieff are both shrouded in mystery. His name is known to general public, but very often from the wrong reasons. Most writers were not interested in his teaching, which was too difficult for them to follow, but mainly in his life, especially sex life, which was very controversial. To this negative opinion mainly contributed one of his failed students, a French journalist, Louis Pauwels, who was in contact with Gurdjieff in 1948, a year before his death. Pauwels hardly knew, but nevertheless criticized his method of teaching, and what worse, he maliciously linked Gurdjieff with Hitler and the Nazi, what after the war was most damning connections. The link was that one of the top Nazi officials was 15 years earlier interested in Gurdjieff's teachings. There also exist unverified stories about his connections with Stalin. This way, Gurdjieff's reputation was sealed, and any new publications simply repeat the old stories. Problem was, and still is, that most of the people cannot comprehend Gurdjieff's personality, who was not interested in fame and publicity. Gurdjieff was partially to blame for his reputation, because very often he spread false information about himself. He believed that the right students will discover and appreciate his teachings, and therefore he could not care less about the rest. He believed that his teaching is not for the masses, but for specially capable students, and many men and women with marked intelligence and critical faculties became his pupils. Who was Gurdjieff? He was born in 1866 in Russian Armenia to a Greek father and Armenian mother. In 1883 he moved to Tbilisi, where he probably attended a seminary. There is a lack of independently confirmed information about his early life until his arrival in Moscow in 1912. He probably traveled widely all over Asia, where he searched for esoteric knowledge. He may have stayed in Tibet and had close contact with the Dalai Lama. After arrival in Moscow, he started teaching, and his most famous student was Uspensky, philosopher, writer, and traveler. In 1920, Gurdjieff left Russia and through Constantinople arrived in France, where in Fontainebleau, near Paris, opened his institute. He traveled several times to the United States, from where came his main financial support. In 1924 he started writing his most important book, Beelzebub's Tales, which was published after his death in 1949. His students came mainly from America and from England. Gurdjieff did not want to start a new religion, sect or school for people to obey a new set of truths. True freedom can only be achieved by developing a higher level of consciousness through individual effort and willpower. He stated that he did not invent anything but discovered old esoteric teaching known for thousands of years. He believed that the teaching of Christ contained a great deal of esoteric information, and the commandment, love your neighbor, was the most important but least practiced commandment. As I said, his teaching is not easily accessible to a casual reader, and its main canon is that man is not in control of his life, but is living as in a hypnotic sleep. Gurdjieff for the first time in the West distinguished four states of man's consciousness: sleep, awakening, self-consciousness, and objective consciousness. He showed that in the awakening state, most functions are carried out by man automatically. For the first time, he showed that there is a practical solution for man to reach a higher level of consciousness, and he called it the fourth way. It requires hard work and a strong willpower, but at least there is a chance for people to develop further. Stories originated from some of his ex-followers and picked up selectively by reporters and some writers present Gurdjieff as a tyrannical, ruthless, and even cruel person who demanded the near impossible from his pupils. Therefore, it is important to look into his behavior towards his pupils and identify the purpose of his harsh treatment. His relation with his followers were based on two principles: to help them to know themselves and to help them to develop themselves as quickly as possible, and to make sure that they would attain full and true freedom. Gurdjieff believed that merely lectures and intellectual analysis was not sufficient to help his students to know themselves. They had to experience certain conditions themselves, and they had to put in such difficult situations that they had never faced before. His teaching was very different from what people could expect, and only very strong and determined could pass his test. This is why there were so many unhappy students who failed and fed spiteful information to the media. Who was then Gurdjieff? Was he a charlatan, hypnotist, and opportunist as depicted by hostile journalists, or a teacher and wise man as perceived by his students? I believe that Gurdjieff had a great mission to accomplish: how to change man, how to improve humanity. Gurdjieff arrived on earth to show man a practical way how to develop his consciousness. He was a messenger such as originators of the main religions, Buddha or Christ.